Okay, well, do bear with us. We have one last but not least presentation. So invite you all to please stay, and it's been great information so far. Last is protecting user data in the smart city scenario, the case of the NGSI encryption layer. Some great titles here. With us we have Jose Gonzalez from Interinov. Interinov. Yeah. Okay, come on up, Jose.
Thank you, everyone. I think I'm standing in front of the breakout sessions, so I'll try to keep it quick here. I mean, well, as you can see, basically, I'm representing today an action cluster, but actually I'm representing something that it's even bigger, that it's called Fiware. I mean, we've been working with GCTC, NIST, and all these initiatives ever since 2014, so probably you have heard about it already. But let me say one more time what Fiware is. Okay, so basically, in a nutshell, Fiware is a platform. It's an open source platform of different services. And what we try to do here is we are not a vendor. Fiware is actually a community of different stakeholders coming from the industry, the universities, research centers, and so on. And basically, the mantra here is basically try to work with open source technology that is reference, like, for example, OpenStack, Docker, Hadoop, and so on, and try to work and try to focus on a common and standard API, which is actually working on top of this reference technology. So in that way, we was starting to work with something that is a standard, no matter what platform we are working with. So if we extend this model into a platform itself, basically, and we have different services, we will be able to work in different vertical markets, like, for example, like smart cities, or agriculture, or energy, or whatever we want to say. We will be able to be interoperable with service providers, like, for example, Amazon Web Services, or IBM Bluemix, or any other type of technology, because at the end of the day, the most important thing is to work and try to speak the same language, which actually is this standard API that it's called NGSI, okay? And also, what it's also important, I think it's also important for cities and communities, is try to be modular, so that we can have only those services that we want to work with, okay? But, okay, so going to the point, actually today I'm representing an action cluster that it's led by this consortium. I'm not participating in it, but I mean, at the end of the day, I'm representing what is the ecosystem itself. This action cluster is actually being deployed in the city of Mexico, in Mexico City, and it's actually led by an initiative that is actually $2 million of budget. It's called Smart SDK, and you can see there the 4 partners that are involved in this initiative. Basically, you can have there 2 reference stakeholders from Mexico, which is Infotech and the Tecnológico Monterrey, which are research-driven institutions, and the other 2 ones are coming from Europe. So at the end of the day, this is an European-Mexican cooperation, okay? And the action cluster is actually about how we can, the motivation behind it is actually a twofold motivation, how we can actually support the mobility in high polluted cities like Mexico City. Meanwhile, we improve the quality of life and foster environmental friendly behavior. So this is pretty much the motivation of the action cluster and the solution that it's being deployed by these partners, okay? And they try to do it in the following way, actually. Try to help the final user to pick up the best route within the city, but doing it in a way in which they can actually take into consideration different external factors, for example, like environmental, I don't know, the pollution that it's right now in the city on specific sectors of the city. And not only that, also personal factors, like, for example, if you as a person has a specific risk, for example, in terms of asthma or you have breath issues, for example, okay? So this is a little bit an overview of the usual, the graphical user interface that they are working and they're developing, basically. And they have several features, like, as I said, I mean, route planning to try to see how to get to the point, from point B to point B in the best way, in the better way, but not only taking, I mean, not like in general for, like suiting for everyone, but in particular case of, for example, today it's a more polluted day than, for example, than yesterday or than any other day. So basically, it's better to, instead of like taking the bike, it's better to go and pick up the public transport. And that way, we can actually reduce the CO2 pollution that it's actually in the city. And you're not going to suffer that much if, for example, if you are used to go and take the bike. Okay. For example, you can also combine if you can pick up the bike and also the car, okay? As I said before, I mean, you also take into consideration personal factors like the health. It's actually, you can actually provide information about if you suffer from special health conditions like asthma or any other factor that could help you or could affect the way that you move throughout the city. So that takes into consideration, for example. You also collect some different historical data from open source, open data from the city and some other references and sources of information. And basically the action cluster is being deployed in two different trials, two different scenarios. The one in the university campus, that is actually the campus on Tecnológico de Monterrey, is actually in Mexico City, where they are targeting more than 30 routes, okay? And it covers 22 geographical areas, which is actually something remarkable. And the other one is actually working with the city, with the public transportation of the city, in particular with 5 routes of public transportation of the bus system, basically, where they target environmental data, user mobility, and how the citizens are using these lines, which actually is also affect how, for example, the city wants to control or plan the routes of the public transport, okay? So as Soko was chasing me to provide more like privacy within the action clusters, I'm going to talk about a little bit about how they actually use encryption, an encryption layer to protect the data. That it's actually something important because as we were mentioning, we're talking here about personal data. So it's important how we can actually protect this from a risk use of it, okay? So what they come up with is basically I mean, data has to be secure, as I said, because we are talking a bit about routes, but also we're talking about location, specific location of the people and the buses on the public transportation. So this is somehow relevant information to be taken in consideration. And as well as the personal health data. I mean, a user, if they want to have a customized service for this specific application, they could actually submit some personal data that needs to be protected. So all of this has to be protected somehow. For developers, the developers that require this encryption layer to use, I mean, to have it for protecting the data that they're using for the applications in general terms, okay? Because this encryption layer is not only for this specific application, it's actually, as we were saying, as soon as we can use this common standard API that is called NGSI, it could be used for this specific scenario, but on any other type of Fiware by Fiware solution, okay? So this is actually also important. The replicability of this specific service, and also uses, as I was saying, basically they require secure methods to protect their personal data. Okay. So the motivation is clear: how we can provide a Fiware service, a Fiware compliant service that is capable of encrypt personal data. So they came up with basically with a user interface where actually you can provide different information that it's really customized to if it's depending on data model, if it's weather, parking, waste management, and it's pretty much put it into the form of an API, an JSON. It's basically a JSON. This is basically the standard way that you can actually provide information and encrypt it. Basically, you can customize the different parameters that you want to encrypt or you want to decrypt, the encryption method as well, and so on. Basically, this is how the JSON looks like. It's just a pretty standard JSON that actually you can use if you're a developer quite easy, okay? And pretty much, I think I'm on time, so thank you very much. And I'll be around these days, probably showing once again this action cluster. Thank you.